I'm John Fralick, your host tonight, and welcome to Pigeon TV. I want to take some time tonight and talk about the level of commitment required to be in this awesome sport. For those people who have been a part of pigeons their whole lives, they understand this commitment. But for those of you who are interested in getting into the sport and want to know more about it, one of the most important things you need to do is consider how much of a commitment these animals absolutely require. A, if you want to have fun at it, and B, if you want to be a winner at it. The first thing you have to consider is the time. These are living, breathing animals. Every day they need food, every day they need water, every day they need cleaned up after. And that is a commitment on your part. The next thing you want to take into consideration is the financial commitment. The feed that we give these pigeons is not free. These birds have to have medications. They have to have feed additives. In order to be in a club and have fun and be competitive, you're going to want to do those things that make your birds as competitive as possible. And each of those things costs money. There are tools, there are drinkers and nest boxes and waters, all kinds of things that you'll need to invest in initially in order to be able to have a loft of quality pigeons. And that doesn't even take into consideration getting birds of quality. There's another financial commitment there. You can ask around and get free pigeons. You can run the gamut all the way up to getting pigeons that are worth thousands of dollars a piece in hopes of breeding those fast, racing, winning babies. Another thing you have to take into consideration is the fact that it is a time-consuming sport, and when you are not at home, not able to take care of these birds, who's going to do that for you? Do you have another family member? Do you have a neighbor or a partner or a friend or a spouse who's going to be able to feed and water and take care of these animals when you're away? If you are not retired and you're working like a lot of us, then you have to be gone from time to time. It's just inevitable. And family obligations, there's going to be times when you're going to need the help of either a friend or a neighbor or a partner to take care of these birds. One of the other things you want to be sure that you recognize as part of the responsibility of having pigeons is the fact that they need to be cleaned and cared for. One of the favorite tools that you're going to have, well, it's going to become a best friend of yours if you decide to keep your pigeons clean, is the scraper. Everybody laughs about learning how to use a scraper at a young age, and if you have young children, they love to scrape because it's physically active. But it is something you will need to do every day. You have to scrape those perches, scrape those nest boxes, and if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty a little bit from time to time and be the target of an aerial bomb once in a while, this may not be the sport for you. But if that's not a problem for you and you're well aware of the requirement to keep these birds clean and healthy, then this is a great sport. One of the other things that you want to be aware of is the fact that as young bird racers, and even with old birds, there's training involved. And again, that is a time commitment. For instance, when young birds have been out loft flying and they're flying for 30, 40, 45, 50 minutes at a time each day, and it's late June, early July, middle July, it's time to start taking those young birds down the road. And what we mean by that is going out there in the dark, collecting up all the birds into training baskets, loading them into the car, and taking them down the road. When we train young birds, we'll start out at a mile, then maybe 2 miles, then the next day 3 miles, then 5 miles, then 10 miles. And prior to racing season, you'll probably be training your birds 60 miles or more in one direction. That means loading up the birds, getting in the car, driving 60 miles, letting the birds out of the basket, watching them circle for 2 minutes, and then they take off, and then you get back in your car and race those birds home. And you do that a couple of times before the racing season starts. So it is a big commitment for training. Another commitment you have to be aware of are the racing seasons. In the spring, we have approximately a 10 race series starting in probably April and ending in mid-June. And every weekend you'll have old bird races where the birds are taken to the clubhouse on, say, a Friday night, put on the racing truck, registered, countermarked, loaded onto that truck, and then Saturday you have to be at home for those birds to get home. If you have an older style clock, you've got to take the counter marks off their legs, put them in the clock, and then Saturday evening back to the clubhouse to tally the results and find out who the winner is. It's all an exciting part of the sport, but at the same time, this is part of that commitment that you have to think through when you decide you want to be a pigeon racer. One of the other parts of the commitment is flock management. And I don't believe that there's enough conversation about flock management today. One of the things that you want to remember is that pigeons breed. That's what they do. They eat, they sleep, they make a mess, and they breed. That's what God intended them to do. So what we want to do is find ways to manage these flocks so that the numbers of pigeons that we own and that we have in our loft does not get out of control. And there's a lot of ways to do that. We can let birds sit on eggs and then remove those eggs after a period of time. We can put dummy eggs under those birds. We can keep the cocks and the hens separated in different compartments so there are no fertile eggs being laid. These types of flock management techniques and other ones that you can discuss with local pigeon flyers are an important consideration. And if you have a problem with flock management, it's something that you need to take into consideration. And finally, when we talk about considerations for pigeon racing, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that this is a group sport. It is not an individual. I, as an individual, as a pigeon racer, will race my pigeons, but I will race them against all the members in my club or in my combine. And I want to join a club with people that I get along with. So if you have the privilege of having more than one club in your area, take the time to visit those clubs. Get to know the people in each of those clubs and find out if the environment, if the clubhouse, if the distance to the clubhouse, if the people that are part of that racing community are people that you can get along with. And if they are, and all these other things fall into place, I look forward to hearing from you and having you tell me how much fun you're having racing pigeons. For PigeonTV.com, I'm John Froelich. Thanks for coming.